There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonko table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonko table, the table that will make their dreams come true. Yo, everyone. That is the voice of your Yonko host, DrJaceAttorney, and we're flying in from the Dragon Seats into House of the Dragon, episode 6. And this is a tumultuous episode, to say the least. There was a lot that went down in episode 6, and what a shift to have occurred with House of the Dragon. This is shifting from our younger cast of Rhaenyra and Alicent and all these other characters over to the older cast. And man, they came in swinging. Goodness. And unfortunately, our fellow Yonko Grandmaster Hoop is not here to join us today. He is with us in spirit for this week. I know once he sees this episode, he will wish he was here physically and not in spirit. But to deep dive this episode of House of the Dragon, I am not alone this night for Game of Thrones. I have Supernovas with me to deep dive episode 6 tonight. And let's get started. Jesus Christ. This episode of House of the Dragon, I'll say it up front. I think it's the best episode so far. I think it's the best episode. Easily.
Ooh,
I don't know. I am telling you, I was at the edge of my seat for practically every scene in this episode. Not to say that I didn't get that feeling in other episodes. Like, yeah, there were some really good moments in episode 1, episode 2. We kind of skip episode 3. No one talks about episode 3. But, you know, there were moments. There were good moments. And then there were slow moments. I feel like this week, every freaking minute, I was invested in what was going on. The dialogue, the relationships, the betrayal. Every time I thought we hit the climax of the episode, there's some other craziness going on not even in the same city. And it blows your mind. How do you all feel? How do you all feel about this week's episode?
I do feel it's probably the best episode so far. And I think that this has a lot to do with the timeline of this episode. I feel like other timelines or other episodes' timelines were very scattered. You know, there was a lot of jumping to conclusions with other episodes. Like, I felt like they maybe rushed a little bit now that I look at this episode, because this episode, everything felt like it was a consequence from the scene previous, like, right, previous decisions. Nothing felt like that was, how should I say? Nothing felt like last week Kristen Cole being the only Kingsguard with his helmet off. And then we're like, I guess why is that happening? Because he needs to be found out. No, this episode definitely feels like people had goals, people had motives, and everyone just kind of did what they end up believing.
For sure, this felt like, I mean, in my opinion, peak Game of Thrones. Like, I was not once, and maybe upon rewatching it, maybe I might find some things to take issue with, but there was not a single moment where I was pulled out of, oh, why did this character do that? Why did this person say this at this point? Compared to last week where Nino alluded to it, the whole thing with Sir Kristen Cole. Why do you have your helmet off? How can you tell that he's the one in the room that's doing whatever with Rhaenyra? You know, just moments like that kind of pull, at least someone like me, it pulls me out. But in this week, not a single one, not a single moment. I loved it. Dr. Rika, how do you feel about the episode?
I feel the same type of excitement around just like all of the various happenings. I think we alluded last week to, we knew it was going to jump 10 years ahead, and I talked some about just the introduction of the kids and that's what I was excited to see, because they're the center of all of the mess that we're going to be seeing for however long this continues to go on, at least in terms of the show, because I don't know how much they're gonna, how many seasons it's gonna take to unravel all of this. So I was just excited about being able to meet the kids, and I say excitement, but I don't know how great they are in terms of like personality and as people, but being able to see and be introduced to them, seeing similar to you all, like something would happen in a scene and we'd see the result of like whatever occurred a little later on in the episode, which agree with you, Dr. Jace, that it did feel like kind of peak Game of Thrones with the scheming and then something unexpected happening as a result of that scheming, and then people get put into a bind, and now what they're gonna do. You know, it's all of that excitement that really made the original series intriguing and fun to watch.
No, I definitely agree. And, at first I was kind of reserved for, having this 10-year jump because, we grew accustomed to young Rhaenyra, young Alicent, and we kind of, realized the charm that these younger characters had, and we kind of got used to it. We had 5 episodes worth of that content. But I honestly like these older versions a lot better. Not knocking the younger versions, but like just what's at play right now. I'm just way more invested, especially with the kids. The kids are the center of all this chaos, and it goes back to and I'm trying to remember his name. Is it oh my God, Laris? Laris. It goes back to what Laris said in the preview from last week's episode. And I'm sorry, last week's sneak peek to this week's episode, and what he said at the end of this week's episode, where he said, "Children, what are children but a weakness?" And my God, everything you can literally assign every consequence as a result of, yeah, it's that child's fault. Because this child exists in this moment. Now this has to happen, and then this happens. It's just so much to juggle. I love it. Let's get into it. 10 years. It's a long time. Oh wait, Nino.
I'm saying no, I'll get back to that. But 10 years.
10 years. We're 10 years into the future. 10 years from where we last left off in episode 5. And they take their time in this first portion of the episode. They're kind of reintroducing everyone, kind of giving us some insight as to where everyone is at in terms of like position, personality wise. Alicent is like really into her queen role in this episode. She's flexing it. I mean, literally that came from what she did last week with the strut in the wedding. With the green dress.
I just don't know. I am so over, like, I'm watching, but I'm so over these rich people problems. Like, this is petty squabble, and they're like, I'm willing to kill people over it. It doesn't matter who dies. Like, I'm so over it. Alicent needs to just grow up. But yeah, that first scene, I'm very interested because that first scene probably was the worst scene in the episode. And that's also the scene.
Which scene?
The opening scene.
Oh, just the opening scene in general, or like something specific?
No. The opening scene in general.
Okay.
Like it was probably the worst scene in the episode, and that's why they gave it away for free. Like for the full 2-minute clip on Twitter, like the night after last week. So.
Oh, you didn't like the childbirth scene?
It's just like the childbirth scene, and the childbirth scene is fine. But then when they were like walking and Rhaenyra's being like, "At least let me help you," and I was just like, okay, interesting. I've seen this before. But then everything that comes after, I'm like, geez, now that I think back about that opening scene, they really gave us the worst scene in the show, or not in the show, but in the episode, for free. No need for HBO Max subscription.
But then you miss out on everything else that happens in the episode. I really like the intro a lot with Rhaenyra giving birth, where it's a moment, a mother giving birth to her child. It's supposed to be like a lovely moment between mother and child. And you kind of almost have that with Rhaenyra once she gives birth to who we later learn is going to be named Joffrey, but we'll get to that tea when we get to it. But once she gives birth to Joffrey, immediately that gets taken away because one of the handmaidens comes in and she's like, "Oh, princess, your grace wants to inspect the child." She wants the child immediately, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Allison, is this what we've come to? Is this what we're doing?"
Yeah, and I was like that at the beginning of the episode too, until later on in the episode where I'm like, wait a minute, how does Laenor plus Rhaenyra make little babies like that?
Okay,
so that's all I'm saying.
Okay, so when I saw the children, obviously the elephant in the room was that they had brown hair. They didn't have the traditional white hair of either a Targaryen or a Valyrian. For some reason, this was gonna pull me out completely. I thought because once Alicent saw the newborn child, she commented to Lenore saying, "Oh, well, maybe someday you'll get a kid that looks just like you." And I'm like, okay, so all right, so that's not his kid. I started thinking for some reason that it was Sir Kristen's children, and I'm like, please don't tell me that Kristen kept going after what happened in episode 5. Because at that point I'm like, well, who else? Like who would be doing this? There's the big question mark in the room. And I mean, we can just outright say it now. Sir Harwin is the father. Was Sir Harwin introduced in the previous episode?
I don't think he was introduced. He was around, right?
Yeah, he's been around.
He's been around.
The first time I believe he was mentioned was in episode 3. And then he's steadily been like in the background. The most we saw of him was last week though.
Okay, got it. He was at the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
He got Rhaenyra out of there.
Oh, you think it resulted from that? Or at least like it blossomed, from there, because at that point,
listen, 3 kids and they all look like him. It must have come from somewhere.
Oh my God, it's these Targaryens, man. They keep playing games, but it is a Game of Thrones, as they say.
I don't know how I feel about this because I don't know if who's right in this scenario, because I'm like, damn, Allison, that's really fucking cruel to make. So, and then she acted all like, oh, Rhaenyra,
you should be resting.
Yeah, you should be resting after your labors. And then it's just like, oh, then why the fuck did you call for me and my child? Like, but then at the same time, I'm like, Rhaenyra, why do you have to do this? Why can't you just have a child with your husband? At least one?
Because she likes duck. And he likes geese.
You know, I'm saying this. I get it. Duck and geese, whatever. Actually, I'm not going to say it. Skip that. We're going to move. I'm just saying that's very sus of her to not want a child with Laenor. I'm sus.
Is it that she didn't want a child with Laenor, or did they just never bother to try? Like, that was the one part. I guess if anything, that was probably the one thing that I questioned in the episode, because in last week's episode they came to that agreement. It's like, hey, we're doing our duties as heirs to our family. We're probably gonna have to produce an heir, but aside from whatever child we produce, we'll go off and, have our duck and have our geese. I feel like there wasn't really anyone to blame between the two in this episode. I just feel like they didn't do it for whatever reason, but it's like, why didn't you? Why wouldn't you try and avoid these issues that you're having now with Sir Harwin, the 3 kids? There's 3 now.
Here's my issue. At least the first one. Why couldn't you get the first one? Why couldn't you just be like, now since we definitely have someone from our bloodline,
this is definitely yours.
Yes. Now I will continue. No, I have a funny feeling. Rhaenyra probably saw her father drop on that floor after she got married, and then she was like, wow, that was a wild night. Call Sir Harwin to my room, please. I need to talk to him about thank him for saving me. That's exactly what happened.
Personally. Yeah, I don't know, because even, it's funny because Lenore actually seems to somewhat care for the child, even though he knows in his head. I feel like that's not his. I mean, he wanted to name the child Joffrey after his Joffrey, his lovely Joffrey.
Oof, that's a very gay thing to do.
What? Naming it after the previous...
People did that back in the old days. They'd be like, yes, I will name him after my child after my former roommate who died suddenly and tragically, and who I lived with from the ages of 12 to 25, and it was only just us and the maids. But it was just friends, I promise everyone.
We were just bros.
I mean, if we want to connect it to recent events, didn't Adam Levine want to name his unborn child after his mistress?
I don't know anything about the tea with Adam Levine.
Well, so yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And there were screenshots. It was
wow.
Oh, there were receipts. Interesting.
I believe in the books. People knew, but of course, nothing was ever like we weren't as sure compared to the show, clearly, and they're gonna have to use it as a plot device. So should Rhaenyra have had kids with Harwin? No, but then we would not have all this drama. So I'm just I'm pretty similar to last week and the whole no helmet thing. I'm pretty forgiving with certain pieces that, we got to keep the plot going along. We need to keep it messy.
Well, but here's I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to counter this. But I think I forgive this one instance because this is a character flaw. This is well-written character flaw. Versus last week's helmet was just missing on set. So, very different.
Yeah. There was a Starbucks coffee in the corner. Didn't you see it?
Overall, I think ultimately they're going to have to make decisions whether we like them or not. That we're going to have to keep this moving forward and keep it messy. That's the point of the show. So, yes, Rhaenyra, you should have had an heir. We don't really know the reasons why. They ultimately didn't, but that's the case of what we're dealing with now. So what's going to happen as a result? And so we started to see some of that tension, certainly in the little fighting yard training area, whatever it's called.
Right.
Through.
We get introduced to some of the children, all of the children from this lovely royal family. Some of these names I'm not totally familiar with, so bear with me. So there's Aegon. Right, the eldest of Alicent's children. Okay, then this one I'm blanking. Daemon.
Aemond.
Like
almond, but with an E.
Okay.
No, he's the second son.
Yeah.
He's the second son of Alicent and Viserys. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then there's another one somewhere, right? Oh, Helena.
Helena? Is that the
Helena.
daughter of Alicent?
Yes.
Okay. We didn't see her this episode, did we?
No, we did. We saw
We
her
did.
like
We had
twice.
a little centipede.
Oh, wait.
That was her. Yes, that was her.
The daughter.
She was the centipede?
No,
Yeah, with the centipede.
She had a little centipede in her hand. She was doing math and stuff.
I thought that was Rhaenyra with the centipede.
No, she was too
No.
young.
Oh, geez, I need to go back.
You
Whoa. Wow. I just saw white hair and I assumed, oh, yeah, that's Rhaenyra.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
Wow. Oh, my God. Goodness. Okay. Then the context of that makes way more sense because I was wondering, like, why is Alicent so nice to Rhaenyra in this scene? This is weird. All right. So we see all the kids. And then on Rhaenyra's side, the names, I don't remember them. Help me out here.
There's
So-
Luke.
okay. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, there's Luke, who's the oldest.
Go
I
ahead.
believe.
Luke. Okay.
He has a longer name, but the short of it is Luke. There
Okay.
is Jacearis, is it? Jacaris?
Jacaerys.
Just-
He's the
No, no.
youngest.
No, he's the oldest.
Jacaerys
because-
is the oldest.
One.
Yes, because Rhaenyra said that Jacaerys was going to inherit the Iron Throne after him.
Okay. Right. That was during their little their spat in his room.
So Jacaris is the oldest. Lucerys, Luke, is the second, and then Joffrey.
Okay. Got it. All
Or
right.
for memory, look, I'm just calling it right now. It doesn't matter who these kids' names are. They're bastard 1 to 3 because they're not living. They're not living. There's no way that they're living.
You think they're not gonna survive? Not a single one.
There's no way. There's no way that they're living. No.
I'm not gonna give away. I'm gonna say a lot of these kids gonna die, y'all. That's it.
True.
So
Damn. Spoilers.
we won't say who, but a lot of them are. Nino is correct. A lot of, just in general, we're gonna see a lot of these folks.
Okay. I mean, we get a little bit of a sneak peek into some of their personalities. They kind of just pal around a little bit. They haze what's his name?
Aemond.
Aemond. Because apparently he does not have a dragon compared to the other 3. And they bring in that little pig with the wings, and they pretended that was his dragon. They were mocking him. Poor Aemond.
We got to see more dragons this episode too with them when they introduced them.
We
That's
did.
pretty cool.
So we see, I'm guessing it's like not a baby dragon, but like a preteen dragon.
Baby dragon. With my time exactly.
Oh, stop. I know where you're going with that. My time wizard. No. But yeah, we got to see some new dragons. What was the dragon that was in the dragon pit that was like tucked away that Aemon tried looking for? Just some random one that we don't know about yet?
They had fire.
Yes.
Yeah, I got nothing for you. I'm not great with dragons. That's the
Aemon,
one.
that when Aemon went looking, I was like, oh, we're gonna have a burnt kid. It's
You thought he was gonna die here?
Oh yes.
No, we just got introduced to him.
Yeah, but I was just like, you're being dumb. You're being stupid. The dragon's gonna cook you. The dragon's gonna cook you. That dragon was huge.
Dragon was huge. It almost did cook him.
Yeah.
It almost did.
And he slipped, and I was like, okay,
it's over.
it's over. And then it was.
I mean, some of these kids are kind of psycho a little bit. They got some psycho tendencies. I think it's Jacaerys or whichever one. One of Rhaenyra's kids that was being trained with the dragon in the dragon pit. He was all gleeful to be able to tell, his baby dragon to basically torch to death one of the lambs. And I get it. I guess it's like training so that you have your dragon obeying your commands, so that it doesn't go for what it lusts for, which is the food right in front of its face. But yeah, this kid was just all gleeful. He's like, yeah, that's my dragon. Look at it. Look at him go.
I don't fault the kids for that because that's what dragons do. They burn and then they eat. You know what I mean?
And I
You
will
know,
say, of the
so,
kids, he's the least problematic compared to some of the.
I mean,
There's one who's a big problem, and we
Interesting.
did get to see some of that this week. But I took it similar to Nino as like they're kids, they're training, it's exciting more so than
you know, it's like
something wrong with personality.
it's like you have a snake and you have to feed it live mice. Like you just get used to it. You're like snake eat mice. If they're in the wild, they have to fight for it.
It's
If they,
nature.
if this dragon was in the wild, he'd be like, "Oh look, a coat, yum, meat's back on the menu, boy."
Wrong show. Wrong
You're right.
mythos. But right, this whole dragon training session, it didn't last too long, but it was nice to see some of the new dragons. And we're likely going to see them in the future as well. But then this training in the dragon pit transitions into on the surface where they have the sword combat, the training with our lovable quoted Sir Kristen Cole. Sir Kristen
Yes,
Cole's instructing the kids. How sweet is that? That was sweet. That's
but
sweet of him.
to I think moving forward, we're just gonna have to admit that this Kristen Cole is a different character than the Kristen Cole
We were
that we
introduced
had
to.
that we were introduced to. This is because the writing
Oh
is
yeah,
not
for
the
sure.
same
For
at all.
sure. I really felt like it was a different character once the training started progressing. Sir Kristen Cole was instructing Aegon to keep going at it against one of the other brothers. And yeah, it really it did kind of pull me out just a little bit because I'm like, wait, is this the same guy that I was kind of okay with from the last couple episodes? But then 10 years is a long time.
Yeah, but
10 years is
this
a
is
long that's a decade. Where were you 10 years ago?
true, but it's just how the show presented it. His character took such a turn. Like I don't disagree how his character took the turn. I'm just like from one episode to another, we don't get to see the
You want
evolution.
to see the snowball
Yes,
effect of how it happened.
like I said, imagine if Kristen's Cole last week, if it was spread out, throughout the season, if maybe he didn't have that big turn in episode 5, maybe it was like for an entire season where they broke the bounds of courtly love, and now he's questioning himself. He's slowly, scene by scene, he's slowly going mad because Rhaenyra is choosing to again and again not choose him until he's forced to make a declaration, make a proposition, gets rejected, and then all this other stuff. But of course, this is a different show. This is not what they're going for. They were just like, okay, here's the outline. Believe it.
You got a 10-year buffer. Don't worry about it. We don't have to explain it. He's just angry now. He's angry.
And yeah, and dare I say, Sir Kristen Cole was, the white knight, the good-looking man in armor. And now what is he? Kristen Cole the homophobe. Kristen Cole the misogynist. Yeah. Kristen Cole the think of another bad name. That's what he is.
I'm no longer a Sir Kristen Cole fan. R.I.P. episodes 1 through 5. I was a Kristen Cole fan. Oh well. I mean, things come to a head in this episode because that's when we really get to see, okay, who was really the daddy? Who's the daddy in this
In what way?
in a very interesting way. In a very interesting way.
I think in both. I think in all ways described.
Yes.
Sir Harwin Strong is the daddy.
Really? What makes you say that?
Well, Laener's never around. Laener is a deadbeat dad. Laener married rich and now goes to Flea Bottom and
Flea
drinks.
Bottom.
Yeah. So I don't know what he's doing. He's not raising those kids. He's not raising
He
those
is not.
kids.
They ain't his kids.
Yeah.
they ain't his kids.
And yeah, I think it's time that we bring up our proposed section where we what do you call it? Yonko Bar.
Come thirsty.
Come thirsty.
Come thirsty.
So let's just talk about Sir Harwin Strong.
We're
Let's-
simping
let's
Sir
talk-
Harwin Strong.
We absolutely are.
I see.
We absolutely
We're
are.
I see.
hijacking this podcast for a little bit. Sir Harwin Strong has gotten so much better throughout the episodes. Better looking, better armor. He is a very good looking man. I feel like he would take care of me. And you know what? I'm right. He took care of those kids.
Period.
He took care of Rhaenyra in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
What he did not take care of is himself.
He did not. He did not. I wish he did. I really do. That is a man. Thank you, Game of Thrones. Thank you. We're not. I'm just saying we're not thirsty enough on this podcast, and
It's okay to
He
be.
gave it to us. He gave it to us. The armor, good and shiny. The yellow little cape.
It was a great color blend. I liked
He
it.
is not the stepfather by law. He is the father who stepped up.
Ooh.
That's what. Oh god, the jokes write themselves. But this ties back to that scene that we were on with the children.
Uh-huh.
Sir Kristen Cole's a madman. He's a psychopath.
What's his deal? Why is he just so pissy?
He's petty.
He's petty. I mean, Sir Harwin's just saying, hey, I mean, my man, just, tell them to do this instead, or train them in this way. Are you questioning my instructions, Sir Harwin? No, man, I'm just making a suggestion.
Yeah, and he's so manipulative because these kids don't know any better. They don't know that they're being used as pawns for this game that
Of
these people are
Thrones?
playing.
Oh, roll credits!
No
Ooh.
credit.
Uh,
It's go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think too, if we consider, and I'm sure we'll talk more about Allison in a moment, but just the type of person she is, because I do consider her to be a little petty and have her grudges, and it makes sense if he's been kind of by her side for the last 10 years that he also emulates some of that behavior. And speaking about Kristen, but so they just get to be petty together, but it doesn't excuse the fact that the kids are definitely being played.
And Sir Harwin does not like that at all. He
Does not.
gives Sir Kristen his comeuppance.
Listen, Sir Kristen Cole's father was a steward. He doesn't
Right.
sound like Sir Harwin Strong, the father who stepped up. He doesn't sound like
That's his title. That's his claim to fame.
The hair was laid, bitch.
And then Kristen Cole gets him to admit or practice it's not
indirectly
admit. When did Kristen Cole get so manipulative?
In the last 10 years.
in the last 10 years. I really want to see this 10-year gap, because so what happened? Like, is it that Sir Kristen Cole at the end of last week's episode where he was gonna off himself? Did he he pledged himself to Allison?
Yeah, Allison.
Is that what happened? Okay. And I guess those 10 years have turned him into this. I wonder.
Yes. And you want to know something? It's time for me to come on and give more analysis on this, because I started it with Courtly Love. This is an interesting dynamic of Courtly Love, because once Courtly Love the line has been crossed, things go south for the knight, for the lady, for everybody. You can see it in Tristan and Isolde and Lancelot and Guinevere, and every tale known as time. And there needs to be a sense of purity. And because Kristen Cole has crossed that line already, his Courtly Love relationship with his new idol, Alicent, is tainted. He's cursing in front of her. He's not acting a gentleman. He's no longer the White Knight. So even though, yes, I have questions about his character, thematically speaking, it's very interesting because of how it relates to knight stories and knight structures of, medieval pieces. So I like what I'm seeing. it's very interesting. Kristen Cole makes total sense thematically speaking, that he's an asshole now. He's tainted himself.
He got what was coming to him. Sir Harwin gave it to him.
And my analysis is that Sir Harwin is hotter than Kristen Cole.
Yes, and soon we will be saying literally speaking. Anyway.
Oh, quite. Yes, indeed. He does get hotter.
Indeed. So,
Zane.
yeah, so and then we're still focusing on these kids. We see a scene with like Elena, and she's being, interesting. She's like, "Oh, look, a centipede," and whatever. I liked seeing that scene. I liked Allison being a mother and like actually care about her daughter. I like that. I'm like, oh, now I can't just hate Allison this whole episode. I have to find something to like about her, because I like how she does ultimately care for people to an extent. There's an extent here.
Yeah, I think that's always been the beauty of Game of Thrones. Like, characters are gray. Some characters despite what we like about them, they make questionable decisions, and they may act a certain way to other characters that we also like, and you're like, wow, why are you being so mean? Allison's one of those characters. She's being mad petty this entire episode, but she has qualities about her that still ring true from when we were first introduced to her in episode 1. She cares about her family. She really does. She just really hates Rhaenyra now. And she has, I guess, reason to. It's not like it's entirely on her for hating Rhaenyra. Her dad's no longer there. Our boy Otto Hightower is gone, but he's in the sneak peek. Our boy's coming back. I don't know.
Aged a day.
Hasn't aged. Yeah, 10 years. Goodness.
10 years, I still look the same.
They've been good to him. You want to know what 10 years have not been good to? Is our boy Viserys.
Oh, God.
This man is just... God, he is deteriorating.
He lost an arm.
He lost the arm.
And this is where...
No green screen needed. You see it. It's gone.
He's lost an arm. Oh, my God. And, this is where I wonder, because there is a character in the Game of Thrones books. There is a theory about the Grand Maester conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's no spoilers because none of it's confirmed. So don't worry, Dr. Jace. You're giving me the blank face of, oh no, is he spoiler territory?
Are you sure you know where you're going?
Yeah,
yes, I know where I'm going.
Okay.
Because there's been hinted at, like, what are these maesters doing? They said, yeah, this should, it was like one little cut on his finger, from the Iron Throne. And now he's lost his whole arm in like 15 years. And every treatment that the maesters have been doing is not working. So the maesters live in Old Town. And they are protected by the Hightowers. Do you see where I'm going with this, Dr. Jace?
No.
I'm saying maybe, because it's hinted at in the Game of Thrones books that the Maesters had something to do with the downfall of the Targaryens and the end of dragons. It's hinted, it's not confirmed, because everything in Game of Thrones is very hinted. But now this show is showing us that they're not taking good care of Viserys. And how did Otto Hightower know that piece of information about the Valyrians? What do you call it? Marrying Lady Lyanna to someone from Bravos in like a couple episodes back. Are the Maesters work? We don't know yet, but I'm just saying it's very suspicious. My boy Viserys walked up without an arm, and I said, "Oh no, what have they done to you?"
The Maesters.
The Maesters. His arm probably was functioning, and they said, "You know what, my king, cut it off. What is there to lose?"
I mean, some of these remedies that they're giving him, like the maggots will ease the pain, Your Grace. And I'm like, all right. I guess that's the best they got in their time. They got nothing else to combat whatever he has. I still don't even think we have a confirmation. We assume it's grayscale, but some variation of it.
Yeah, I think we. Sorry.
No, go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure the actor said that it's some kind of like the equivalent is like leprosy.
Okay.
Of that time that only he has gotten. That is I guess the closest equivalent that at least the actor is just discussing. I don't think it's been confirmed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Jace, don't you know grayscale only affects Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire? This is House of the Dragon. Daemon bathed in someone's blood that had grayscale. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter anymore. I hate this. But yeah, Viserys is just not looking well at all. Can barely keep himself up. And he's kind of like the same old Viserys that we've seen from before. Just wants what's best for his family, wants the squabbling to stop. He just wants his wife, his daughter to just be happy. Stop the political machinations that are just always churning, especially these last 10 years or so. But 10 years changes a lot of characters, and Alicent, I would say, is one of those characters. How'd you guys like Alicent in this episode? The what?
I said I didn't.
Oh, did it?
As in, like, personality-wise, like, but I do think it's very intriguing to see the shift that, we were with her very early on and what her personality was like too. I think, and even you, Dr. Jace, had said it, kind of assuming this mantle. She is the queen, and it's very clear. I think, and how she presents herself and the way she maneuvers. Although, and I'm sure we'll get to what the end showed us. I think the thing about Alicent is she talks a big game, but when it comes to the action, there's some hesitancy. Like, she's not a Cersei who talks a big game is gonna back it up. She gonna kill all y'all. Like, she's not like that.
She's not a Cersei.
Yeah, there's this desire to, like, I need to be in this position. I want the game pieces to move the way I want them to, but I don't actually want to do the moving. And when it does happen, I'm a little conflicted about it. Which
is good writing.
Yeah, I was about to say, which I find really intriguing. I think if we just had somebody else who emulates characters we've seen before, I don't know if it'd be as interesting, frankly. So do I like her, like, as a person? Maybe not. Am I going to enjoy kind of seeing the progression of what all this is going to entail? Absolutely. So
I definitely do think that Alicent this is at least my reading, is definitely mad because she had to suffer the weight of duty, and Rhaenyra doesn't seem to give a rat's ass. Which, it's said that the Targaryens think of themselves as like gods among men, which is why the whole incest thing is a thing apparently. And God, this is what makes the show so good, because at one side I see Alicent's point. Like, why is Rhaenyra having children with another man?
In front of us. Yes. Just a blatant disrespect.
And why do I and you know what? It's crazy because as we get through the episode, we know why Alicent knows. Because who else would tell her but Larys Strong, the brother of Harwin Strong. So she had somebody in her corner, and let me tell. I'm saying this now. That looked like a date. They had candles.
Yeah, that was that was like in her room, right? In her
private chambers.
Yeah, I was taken aback.
I didn't read it that way. But okay.
I mean, like, I don't see them, having that kind of relationship. It's just the context in which they met. I'm like, why are you guys meeting in her chambers with dinner?
It's such an intimate place, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like a little flirty, and it's like, wine with meat is also a sin. Without meat is also a sin. I was like, excuse me.
I'm like, there's no way Allison is like giving the stink guy to Rhaenyra when she's doing this, whole thing with, there's no way. There's no way.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. You want to know why? Because the rich people in Game of Thrones are a bunch of hypocrites. It's been proven time and time again. They will do anything and everything to just not see what's in front of them. Just like when Alicent's begging Viserys, please see what I'm seeing.
I love these scenes.
Yes.
They were so good.
The dialogue was so good. I'm like, where was this in the first 5 episodes?
It was there. Viserys always did this. He was blind to it.
No, you're right. Viserys did always deliver, but I felt like he's talking about like a mare and a stallion, and like I'm like, this is the Viserys. This is why I'm going to be so mad when he dies.
He's gonna die. He's coming.
But that actor is phenomenal. I want to see what else he's done. But I feel like every time he delivers a line, I'm like, this is Shakespeare. This is giving, theatrical, classical theater, and he's just doing. And we've seen him so like a younger Viserys to like an older Viserys. I thought he was like 102 in this episode. And that's just based off the acting.
It really came off like that. This is someone that, I mean, he is not in the best situation in terms of health. And I really feel that. I really feel that in these interactions that he has with Alicent, with Rhaenyra, and it's all great. I love this. And I feel like at most we'll probably get him to like the end of the season. At that point, it's bye-bye Viserys. I'm gonna miss you.
And then the problem with succession. Oh no.
Who is gonna be succeeded? That's the big one. Because even Alicent, I saw Alicent channeling a lot of Otto Hightower in this episode, specifically when she confronts her eldest son during his wanking session in the window.
That is so weird. Oh my god! I don't know why we saw that. Why did we see this?
I think the intent, because we saw the kind of the scene in the yard too of him looking at some of the maids and whatnot. I think the intent is to display some deviance, some chaoticness within him. But I didn't really need it though. I felt
it was
like
kind of out there.
Yeah, y'all didn't have to do all that now.
I saw the butt and I thought, oh look, it's Daemon. We're gonna see Daemon now. That's Daemon. That's Daemon doing
classic
his Daemon.
It would have been classic Daemon if he was doing it and then he couldn't finish. Shout out to the Lady of Runestone.
I thought it was gonna go to that, and then the camera panned around. And I'm like, oh, that's not Daemon. Okay.
Also, something of interest is the actor is David Tennant's son.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, that plays Aegon. Yeah, so I think there's some Doctor Who kind of connection.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
A child from 2 Doctor Who actors acting alongside a Doctor Who. Very interesting.
Yeah, so
it is.
I mean, I didn't need to see his ass, but yeah, just figured that shit out.
At least it progressed to a really good scene. I really like this moment with Alicent and her son, because you see that Otto Hightower coming out of her. She's warning him, you better want the throne, because if you don't, you and your children, you and your siblings, they're dead. They're dead. They're not going to survive this. And that kind of just goes back into that conversation that Otto Hightower had with Alicent before he left. That's still echoing in her mind 10 years later.
And thematically speaking, I think this is a great example of this. Alicent has been groomed probably since birth for this role to fulfill the desires of the patriarch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that scene is when I knew that she's completely brainwashed, like into this role. Like she's like, there's no other life for me, and I need to keep fighting for it, because if not, I have nothing. When I'm sorry, but like, how deluded do you have to be to think that Rhaenyra would kill her brother? Like,
She's long gone. That's not the same Allison anymore.
And I
right?
think too, that's such an interesting point too of like putting more into context the anger that she has towards Rhaenyra, who is very much like, whether we like it or not, her having children with Harwin is a slap in the face of the whole system. Of like, I'm gonna do what I want, and then also stay here, and I'm still the heir. And that is completely against what Allison has been taught. What clearly, and the thing is, we haven't seen yet. There is another son that she has. So we've seen Viserys, he's fallen apart. I think it's Daeron. But there is
okay.
a son, so she's continuing to be involved in her role here, and I imagine with plenty of misery, in trying to uphold all of this, because that's what has been passed on to her. So I think it adds another layer of some of that anger she has towards Rhaenyra as well, who has kind of been able to be more flexible kind of within the system.
And then this is where Game of Thrones is good, because all this culminates into something, because Rhaenyra and Alicent go head to head in the small council.
I loved it. It was great. Every time someone brought something up, anytime Alicent brought something up, Rhaenyra's just in the corner. Are you sure about that? Are you sure?
And Rhaenyra brings up a good point, like, because she saw it firsthand that the Blackwoods and the whoever in the Riverlands,
the Triarchy. The Triarchy?
No, not the Triarchy.
No, okay. This is where it kind of lost me, because like they were throwing like a lot of names, and I'm like, okay, I gotta remember these. These are really important.
Dr. Jace, I have it. Remember when Rhaenyra was going on tour for a husband?
Yes.
Remember the two people that were fighting, and the one guy stabbed the other guy?
The younger guy, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
She was talking about those two houses and how they're always at war with each other.
Okay.
And she was like, we need to make peace because something's going on. Because something was going on. And that's why I was like, oh, name drop. And she has firsthand experience because she literally saw someone kill the other one from the other house.
So one of them is Blackwood, right?
Yes, Blackwood.
And then what's the other one?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Okay. As long as I remember Blackwood. I remember Blackwood.
Yeah, I think Blackwood was the one who got, or the one who did the stabbing.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Yes. So I was like, this is good advice. First-hand experience. Good advice.
I know how they are.
Yeah. And then everyone's just like, oh, keep coming through. And then we find out that Daemon's, God, I feel like we had such a great and fantastic action sequence in episode 3. We were raving about it, Dr. Jace. We were saying this is amazing. And now we're like, wow, they spent 3 years to get that place, and now it's gone.
Off screen. It's gone. The crab feeder. He won. He won.
Who cares about the crab? Oh God.
Yeah, they're just not winning at all. So, how does the Triarchy come into this? Because they bring it up at this table, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they had been rising again, and the Stepstones were no longer as, I guess, peaceful as they had been in the last couple of years. So it's returned to how it was prior to Daemon.
Okay, got it. So there's going to be more chaos brewing. We're likely going to get another battle sequence at some point. But even in this same table meeting, once all the political things have been set aside in terms of everything away from where they are right now, Rhaenyra makes a proposal. She makes a proposal to our girl Alicent. And what's that proposal, Nino?
It was a great one.
It was generous.
She said, it's time to join our houses. It's time. My son, my heir, I want him to marry your daughter and finally squash this beef. And and then she said, and to top it all off, your son who's been denied a dragon egg will get a dragon egg.
Do you feel that was generous, genuine?
That was greatly generous. Greatly generous. That would have solved so many issues because, oh my God, I just realized Alicent is so deluded because Rhaenyra was basically trying to give them an out and be like, look, I'm not going to kill my own family. I even want to make amends and join our family. But Alicent is so stuck up and is like, I can't do this because I want to be right. I want to be proven that this system works and this system works for me and all my suffering meant something. And now you have to suffer too. That's what this is.
Come on. I'm just giving you, some hypes. Yes.
It's just, but that's such a good scene. Like when Alicent didn't choose to sit when the king said so. And it was just her and Rhaenyra standing. I was like, this is very good staging. Good job. Generous offer. I would have taken it.
It was very generous. Alicent's obviously not gonna take it for whatever dumb reason. Yeah, this is one of the moments where I was like, Alicent, you ain't got to be that petty. Like this is a really good offer. But some of it ties into what Nino was saying just now, and then her petty side is like, oh, but her son is a bastard. I don't want my only daughter to be married to him. It's, oh my God, it's just these characters. I want to root for them, and at the same time, it's like you're being difficult. You're being really difficult right now. I want to like you right now, but it's not working. It's not working. But you want to know someone that tried to find an out from all of this chaos. That tried to, and it's again, I feel like these are different characters 10 years later. Our boy Daemon in Dragonstone.
He's in Pentos.
Pentos.
Yes.
He apparently that dance with the Lady Lena was very enthralling for him, and they got together and they produced some children, right? 3.
It's just like Grandmaster Hoop said. You have white hair. You have the blood of old Valyria. I want you. That's what Daemon says.
That's all he wanted. But this Daemon seems to just want to chill out in Pentos. He doesn't really want to go back and fight for the throne, deal with the whole political BS with his brother, his niece. For now, I mean, I don't know. I can't get a read on Daemon. Part of me honestly thought like, no, Daemon's scheming here. He's got to have an ace up his sleeve. And then I started thinking, but wait a minute, it's been 10 years. I feel like Daemon has settled for the most part, right?
He has.
Yeah, he's done.
Has. And he has a beautiful family.
He does.
He's just a little sad, He's
like, oh, I wanted the Iron Throne.
But he wants glory, so that's why I feel like it's still in keeping in line. He's trying to find his little glories. He's trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to just live the glory days for the rest of his life. And sometimes his wife is pregnant. First of all, I think we have to have our second rendition of the Yonko bar. Come thirsty, come all.
Pull it up.
Lady
Lena.
Wow, what a woman. That's all I'm saying.
Period.
And I was just like, she's understanding. She's a dragon, right? She said
She got
the biggest dragon.
And she said, I want to die a dragon rider's death.
Period.
That honestly, if someone ever told me that, I'd be like, why am I not dedicating my life to you?
You want to be Daemon in this scenario.
and I think honestly, Daemon kind of did settle, and he was willing to, make these like pieces, because I think ultimately, like, was he his ultimate happiest self? Maybe not, but maybe he was happy. Maybe he was just like, I'm fine with it. He's a little cold to his children, but he's a psychopath. I'm happy that he's like, he kept his children alive. That's all.
That's commendable. Most psychopaths don't.
So it's just I think that he's living a good ending, at some point in this episode. And his, Lady Lena's pregnant. That's very important. And wait a minute. I didn't even get to the good part. She rode the biggest dragon in the world at that time, pregnant, 9 months pregnant. And she said,
Girl, is that girl?
That's honestly amazing. What a woman.
And the scene with her and one of the twins.
Yeah.
Oh, so the kids, they are twins.
Okay.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed that scene of just being able to be with, I think we saw different versions of like what motherhood looks like and the relationship between specifically mothers and their children, and then in some cases fathers and their children. And I just really liked being able to see that scene between the two of them. And because I'm sad to talk about where this goes in terms of her fate.
Go on. Go lead us into it.
I knew it was coming, but it's still sad, right? So Lena is in the midst of childbirth, so it's the second of the episode, the third of the series, at least that we've seen on screen. And it's not working out. And it's very clear that she's just not going to be able to birth this child, which will ultimately kill her and the baby. What I found interesting about this scene is the same option.
Yes.
The series had gotten in the first episode was presented to Damon, who responded differently to the and asking like, okay, what's going on here? Like, will the kids survive? With who's? And ultimately, the answer was, there's no guarantee, and then it will absolutely kill her. And he says no. And then Lena makes the decision on her own to die that dragon rider's death, and she has her dragon kill her by dragon fire. So I did find that kind of the comparison very intriguing, as far as I think we spoke very strongly in the first episode of the lack of choice, specifically that Emma had in that instance, and the focus that the series had on the kid and the heir and what it all means. And I think we saw a very different decision, which is what makes Damon so intriguing to me, is he does something that I imagine we'll probably see more of, like, the fuck? Basically, like, sir. But on the other hand, also being able to see a different side to him that feels a bit more compassionate or in some way.
He didn't want her to die.
He said, I may be a murderer, but I'm not going to murder the blood of old Valera. That's not
He will not. This is one of the scenes, again, it's more of a nitpick. It kind of pulled me out just a wee bit, where, Damon's in relatively the same room as Lena, relatively. And Lady Lena just gets up and just starts walking out to where her dragon is. And I just find it very convenient that Damon took the long way around to catch up with Lena to finally stop her at the end and be like, Lena, what are you doing? Dracarys, bam. Already too late.
Maybe he didn't know where she went. Maybe she
he just saw her walk off and be like, "Hey, where are you going?"
I don't think that. I think how the scene is supposed to be read is that he was so deep in thought with the Maesters.
He was trying to think of a solution. He didn't realize she walked off.
Yes, that he was so.
I could buy that.
Perplexed, and then he was like, "I can't make this decision," He's like, no, I can't do it. And
Funny enough, yeah, he never came because he never gave a response, right? He never said yes or no.
And I think he was about to say no. He was like, he seemed so concerned about the Lady Lena's fate. He was like, he was the one asking, will she survive? In a very concerned way. And
right.
Now, and this is a matter of direction. Episode 1, I keep saying it, but that scene I think was mishandled. Especially since we got 2 birthing scenes and probably more grotesque things happened in these birthing scenes, but it was handled much differently. Notice how like the face was the focus of these women. These women were the subject. And then when they were taken out of the scene, it was completely removed. You know what I mean? Or it had already been done. Compare that to the first episode. I need to find out who directed this episode, because I have a funny feeling it's the same person who directed episode 4. But
And I think too, to your point, like as I was watching the scenes, even there was the focus on the face, and we heard noises like that were very unpleasant. That you can infer, were
Right.
people's imaginations. And I think there was a preference, at least on my end, if I could still be very much into the like, this is very painful. I feel really bad for them, but it didn't feel as in the same way as visceral as like that first episode.
well, you want to know something?
They directed episode 1.
I will be. So, it's the same director as episode 1.
Look at
but it
that.
has different writers. Where I think the difference is, because this one was written by a woman. So it was written by Sarah Hess versus the first one was written by Ryan Condal. And I think that's where, whoever's working on it and whoever's writing it, the writers have a lot of power, especially for a long-running series like this. And apparently she worked on Orange is the New Black as well. So there's that history of putting women first in her writing, I would say. I think it showed in this episode. Because women were the centerpieces of everything going on in this episode. And compare that to episode 1, where we felt the women did not have power. And then that violence is there. And even then in the violence of this episode, when the Lady Lena, she's on that beach, and then boom.
Her dragon hesitated.
Her dragon did hesitate.
It's like, what do you want me to do? Are you sure?
But I think the dragon respected that. If Drogon can understand the metaphorical imagery of the Iron Throne, then this then this dragon can definitely be like, I understand what you want. A quick death.
And I will say, not, and they alluded to this in the sneak peek, but the fact that Vhagar currently does not have a writer now is something of importance.
Okay,
so
that does sound important. I guess we'll find out soon enough if that's. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be one of the kids. Yeah, no. There's no. I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe it's
Damon's.
Daemon.
Ooh, Damon's. I don't know. We'll come back to that.
Maybe Aemond tries, and he gets finally turned into KFC.
Potentially, that dragon's too big for him. There's no way. The last bit of this episode is probably where everything just came to a head, right? I mean, there were multiple climaxes in this episode. Every time I thought, with the Dracarys death or just any other scene, I thought, oh yeah, the episode must be over. And then I would check the timer. It would say, wait, Jesus, there's like 17 minutes left. What more could they possibly do? So Hightower, Hand of the King.
That's not Hightower.
That's not Hightower?
That's Strong.
Strong. Oh my God! Why'd I say? I'm sorry. I got the names mixed up.
Otto in the
yes
in the preview, and he said he's back.
He's back. Yay, Otto Hightower. Oh my God! No, our boy's Strong. He wants to leave. He does not want to be Hand of the King anymore, and for good reason, because he knows things are a brewing in this castle. He knows that his son is just not good enough with Rhaenyra, and these accusations are just going to spiral down to him. There's going to be likely death, exile. He's like, yo, let's dip, man. Let's go. Let's get out of here. He tries to propose that to Viserys. He tries to say, hey, let me step down as Hand of the King. I don't want to be here anymore because there's certain accusations floating around. I don't want to be at the center of this. And again, another scene with this actor. I love it. I love it. It just shows how narrow-minded Viserys is. He's like, "Whoa, speak plainly. What are these accusations?" And you have Alicent in the background saying, "Yeah, tell him. What are these accusations?"
But I feel like Viserys isn't narrow-minded. He's just like, I'm tired of people speaking in
riddles.
Yeah. He's like, I'm tired of this.
Well,
I'm the damn king. Speak to me plainly.
He's trying because he knows what is going on, and he knows likely what the connection is of what Strong is trying to tell him. But because he doesn't want to open his eyes and just see what's going on around him, he wants people to plainly say what no one's willing to say. The queen won't say it. His hand won't say it. No one wants to say it to his face. And so for Viserys, just that alone, he's like, well, no one wants to say it. That means it ain't true. It ain't true.
But he has a point, because when in the last episode, when Otto Hightower came to him, he was like, "This is a vile accusation. You told me straight up, and I'll respect you for that." And then he went to go like get Daemon, and he was just like, "You have 30 seconds before I kill you," or maybe it was the episode before. That was the episode before.
I think it was the one before. Yeah.
I think, and Viserys was very swift on his judgment. Then I think he goes back on exile a lot. I don't think the word exile means anything.
It means nothing to Viserys.
So what's the hurt of Rhaenyra? What do you call it? He finds out Rhaenyra, or he's confirmed that Rhaenyra's children are bastards. Like, well, what will be the hurt? He'll be like, I disinherit you from the throne. And then he's gonna look at Alicent Hightower and think of Otto, and then he's gonna be like, actually, Rhaenyra, come back, please. take my throne, please.
I take it back. I didn't really mean it. You remember your uncle? I exiled him like 3 times. He kept coming back. But of course, because Strong wants to leave his position of power, that's what spirals these next couple scenes. You get the scene with Loras and Alicent. And Alicent is just, what's Alicent trying to say in this scene? She's saying, handle it, but do it your way. Like, I don't know.
She left it up to interpretation, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's very much, at least the way I took it, I'm not going to speak for the two of you, but I get this feeling that part of it was like, it felt like ranting. Like, I wish my dad was here because at least he would be on my side.
Right.
I would like this handled in some way because it would just, my problems would be less if that were the case. But I do think it was pretty ambiguous in terms of like what all of that means. But
does that mean kill Harwin Strong?
And that's the deal, is I don't think and I think that connects back to what I was saying a little earlier, is she wants certain things to happen, but there's a reaction when it actually does. So she wants her back and kind of presents certain ideas or infers something to Laris, who's like, okay, bet, I'm gonna figure something out. But I think in terms of his position, now he is the heir of Arenal, and he has something over her, because ultimately what happens is he gets a couple criminals on his side. We saw the beetle or the bug that both on his cane, but now as a little pendant on the coat or whatever of the gentleman, but sends out some folks to set fire to Arenal, and Harwin's dead, and I imagine that the hand is also dead.
Oh yeah, they all cooked.
They all consequences for this.
Now Otto can come back, which is ultimately what she wanted, but her response is one of horror, of like, wait a minute, I didn't say go kill them. But now Laris has something over her, because similar, I think they said it in the sneak peek, he caught her in the net. So
right. I think it was a really good scene, because it's like a monkey's paw scenario, or genie in the bottle. You said you wanted your dad back, And over here, you didn't say how. You didn't say how. This was me with the how. This is how I handled it. Oh man, I loved it. I loved it.
But I also hated it. I love how he's like, you told me to handle it, so I just killed my father and my brother. It's nothing. Excuse me?
Those are just titles. Those are just titles to him.
He said, God, and it's very.
It is definitely a little bit off-putting. It's like, wait, that was your family.
Yeah.
But again, more power. Who cares? Who cares? He wants more power.
Rich people problems.
Rich people problems.
Why have a father when you can have money? Why have a brother?
That is
money.
When you can have inheritance.
And I think too, it gave us some in that Laris is not loyal to anyone but himself.
Right.
I think. Imagine over the last 10 years, Allison had this idea of like, okay, I have basically my master of whispers in some way. He's giving me some info. I'm able to navigate as I please. But now he's blackmailing you. He has a little something, and whether or not you told him to, which you didn't, he's gonna make it he could spin it in a way that is the case.
Right.
And then not only that, but I feel like this episode also ends with Rhaenyra leaves the city and ends up on Dragonstone. Everyone says their goodbyes.
I'm out.
We get the classic scene of, Dr. Rika, go say.
I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. I had a theory.
The theory, yes.
When I was making a bagel. So, and I'm not going to claim that this theory, I didn't come up with it. I was listening to something else and someone else did, but I can't recall their name, so sorry, person. But the idea was, and it's no spoilers, no book, nothing, but the idea of Laris as a green seer.
Yes.
Is something we've seen multiple times is these rats that pop up.
The rats.
Oh,
so
the rats.
We've seen rats pop up. I saw it today in this episode when Viserys was alone in his little study or his little whatever room. There was a rat that was crawling. We saw the rat, at the end of last episode.
The wedding, right?
I'm pretty sure we've seen other rats before. And
every episode they've been here.
And Lawrence, we've frequently seen him near the wirewood tree.
Yes, the werewood tree. Dr. Jace, do you need a refresher?
Of the werewood tree?
Of the requirements of being
Give me the requirements. Yes, give me the requirements.
Okay. So green seers are usually crippled. They're usually people who have a bodily impediment because that's how the old gods want them to be.
Right.
Like a sacrifice.
Right.
Think about the other green seers that we've seen. Bloodraven, who's literally a tree who can't walk, and Bran, who can't walk.
Okay.
Now, this one person who happens to have to walk with a cane, and also Harrenhal.
Yes.
Which one's Harrenhal again?
It's the one that the Strongs burned at.
Okay, right. Okay.
And he had mentioned it, that these rumors about kind of magic and blood in the walls and all this magic and something. I don't know if we'll ever get to see her. But Allison, I think it's Allison Rivers. So she was rumored in the books to have been kind of like a witch of some sort. And she, at least in the books, was the milk mother or the milkmaid, whatever, the person who lactated for Laris in the books, and was rumored to have been a witch. So there's some, I don't know if we'll ever see her. I don't know if that's relevant. I just think it's a really interesting theory.
Yes. But also, Harrenhal is close to the Isle of Faces, which is an isle full of werewoods protected by green seers. Now, why is this important to the bigger thing? Why do we know about this existence? That's where Jon Snow's parents married in front of the werewoods.
It all comes together.
It's
and
like
this idea that we've seen plenty of dragons, there would have to be other magic present. Because this is the most dragons we've seen in the show thus far. They're very successful. for the time being, all this. So it would make sense to have other types of magic kind of floating around. And I'm just saying the rat's been everywhere and he be knowing stuff.
And I don't know if we'll get to him, but Bloodraven is alive and like later. He's alive later. But Bloodraven was a hand of the king, or also Master of Whispers, and he was a Green Seer. So at a certain point later.
You think this could be him too?
No. I'm saying later.
No.
He's not even born yet right now. But later down, because of the Duncan Egg novellas and stuff, where it talks about like the Aegon, the whatever, rise to power. There, Bloodraven, who we saw in the original show, is also a Green Seer, and he changes his face and he turns into animals and he wargs and he does a bunch of things. So it wouldn't be uncommon to have, another Green Seer as, meddling in the affairs of King's Landing.
I'm just
potentially
saying, warg into the rats.
I can buy it. I can buy it. It would explain how he has all this intel in all these areas that he's not allowed in. And again, the rats, they were in this episode, they were in last week's, and I'm pretty sure they've always been around. But now that we know what Laris's his goal is, or at least, he has no ties to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that scene with his dad and his brother is just kind of to show he don't care about anyone. You cannot be this man's friend. Look what he did to his own family. There is nothing you can trust about him.
I think it's interesting.
It is very interesting. That's the episode, right? Did we miss anything else?
We missed Laenor, but I don't think there was much to miss with Laenor.
Yeah, I don't feel like there was a lot to really go off of with him. I mean, he's kind of just doing his own thing. He's not really paying attention to what's going on around him. Rhaenyra brings it up multiple times. He's like, you are staying here with me because our children, they're yours. Our children are, in danger in this area. And Lenore, I feel like we'll definitely get more with him in next week's episode, especially since they're like in a new city away from what's going on with Viserys and Alicent. There's gonna be more time spent with him because I like his character. I liked him even more now in this week's episode. Just he doesn't want anything to do with this. He kind of just married into this because his dad wanted him to. It's like, all right, I'm the eldest son, so I guess I have to. I'll do it. But other than that, that's the whole episode. I mean, just talking about it already, I really feel like this is the best episode we had so far. There was a lot of tea in this episode, and it was just dunked everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping the finale delivers as much as how this episode did, and the episodes in between as well. I want every episode to deliver. Any other thoughts on the episode or what you want to see in next week's episode, just even based on the sneak peek?
I have some ideas about what may be coming up, but I like to leave it lingering.
We talked so much. There was so much to talk about in this episode.
There was
I don't think we got energy to talk about theories on the next episode.
There are so many directions.
Is the Yonko bar? We're thirsty, but R.I.P. to both of the folks that we talked about.
Oh no!
R.I.P.
I hope this doesn't become a trend.
I hope not. We trying to be thirsty for a little bit longer. Help us out.
Well, you got Sir Kristen Cole the remainder of the season.
But like we trying to be like, they need to be good looking and relatively decent human beings.
Oh no, this is Game of Thrones. You ain't getting both.
I said relatively, a little bit more gray.
That is true. That is true.
He's an asshole now, so I can't do much with that. But I really enjoyed this episode. Appreciate it getting to speak with y'all. So.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. There's the Yonko Tables deep dive on episode 6 of House of Dragon. As you could tell from our discussion, we love this episode for better or for worse, because some characters just became complete assholes, and other ones we became thirst traps for. As you well know, we came here thirsty. So next week's episode can go in so many other different directions, but I feel like kind of like what the inside of House of Dragon thing at the end of the of this week's episode alluded to. This felt like a shift in the story. I really feel like everyone's pulling up you know, the big boy pants. Like it's really heating up in House of Dragon, and I'm excited for it. I wonder what's going to happen next week. Hopefully some of our theories that we mentioned here come true. I'm actually really interested in Loras being a green seer, right? A green seer? Okay, all right. I'm not familiar with all the words, but I'm catching up. But there you have it, folks. Let us know what you all think about House of Dragons in the comments below, wherever you're listening to us on, whether it be Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Instagram, at the Yonko Table. Give us a like, give us a shout out, and let us know your thoughts. But with that, everyone, I'm your Yonko host, Dr. Jace Attorney, and fellow supernovas Nino Desplazado and Dr. Rika signing off, and take care.